Hello everybody, and welcome to this episode of Fallout 4 Alien Blaster Only. In this episode, we have not yet obtained the Alien Blaster. Our main goal is to do the Diamond City quests in order to get extra experience. This, combined with the XP from grinding just the resources at Sanctuary and Red Rocket, along with a few other things, will be sufficient to get us all the way to level 20. Here I am primarily selling what I don't need, along with, well, okay, just selling what I don't need. I also look into her inventory for useful clothing, such as charisma glasses, sometimes radiation suits, depending on the challenge.
You look like you need a prescription filled.
Sure, let's take a look.
Right, so I think I'm looking for chems. Okay. Yeah, so as you can tell, I don't exactly remember everything that I do in this episode because the post commentary for this was actually recorded a fair while after actually doing the whole thing. You know, whereas with the other two, it was recorded a lot, like, not as much later than the episode was, like the episode gameplay was recorded. So we're just selling stuff, saving. What do I do now? Think. Oh, okay, I know what I do. Yeah, so I save before taking the charisma stuff and going to all the vendors and plowing down on all their speech checks. So everybody, I attempt a
You're holding out on me, Mo.
what's the thing?
A card emit.
All the way down to red, basically. This character has
Good job.
I think 3 base charisma.
Come on, make it work.
You are one righteous
I'll walk out right now if you don't make
3 base charisma plus 1, 2, 3, 4 from clothing is 7. Plus the 5 from 5 from the Great Mentats gets us to 12.
Sure.
And then that gives you a pretty good chance of passing red checks,
Sign me up. You're gonna go out.
if not a guarantee.
Let's start again. I do a job. Money. Oh, okay. We're talking hunting a giant mutant. That would explain why some students don't.
So yeah, just all that
I think I have one already.
gets done.
Here's a little.
So because this is basically just going to be a stock standard, like a stock standard part of the challenge where I go around doing Diamond City quests without, like,
Happy to help out.
you know, without killing anything, just running around, running from enemies, doing all that.
Let's start again. Last chance.
The thing that I could talk about this episode, which is basically going to be, oh yeah, here I end up turning in the Diamond City quest to get that next one. Oh yes, anyway,
Sure. I know you must be busy, but
I saw the video recently.
There's no fault. Hey,
Fallout 3 is garbage, and here's why.
Come on. This is your boss. Fine. We'll make it happen. Last chance. Put some real. Okay, you win.
And
I'll
it's
find you. Thank you.
basically a video by this guy called H Bomber Guy, and he goes through what he doesn't like about Fallout 3, which seems to be a lot. And now, you know, I haven't played Fallout 3. I haven't watched all that much of Fallout 3. Oh yeah, here I just...
That's right. This is my...
Are you sleeping with Paul?
I really don't see...
You know, while I have all the charisma, I
So here I am.
And I'm asking you...
do these checks while I have the chance.
Right. This whole thing. Not like I planned. Tell Paul.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You've got my attention.
Here's the deal. I have some other...
yeah, so
And we
I haven't
Right.
played
My plan.
I'm in.
Fallout 3. I haven't watched much gameplay of Fallout 3. but he does raise points that can be considered with Fallout 4. Like, you know, some of these points aren't really gonna be that big of a deal. Because, you know, one of the things that he goes on about is the condition system of weapons. And this game doesn't have that.
If the goons are getting paid.
All right, fine.
I thought Travis was your friend.
Do not think I miss your attempt.
All right, I'm in.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, so, you know, this game doesn't have condition system of weapons. But another thing that he notes is how, like, Fallout 3 doesn't have, you know, it's like highly combat oriented, and you know, where he shows this off in like the very first part of the game, where you get attacked by the vault security.
Hey there, purified water. You want
Yeah,
one?
so with
Anything I can
all
do.
of the
Depends. What's this worth?
No, we're not.
points that he,
I'm on it.
Just don't drown.
well, that was a thing. With all the points that he raised about Fallout 3, it made me think about how much they may or may not apply to this game.
Fresh water.
Like,
People, please stand here for my health.
yeah, so,
Hi there.
Look how clean the water is now. Good job.
you know, he basically talks about, for example, how in Fallout 3 your speech doesn't have as much of an effect as in the previous games that weren't made by Bethesda. And, you know, it is kind of similar in this game. Like, you know, he notes two main things. One of the effect of speech, and the other is like the effect of like speech checks or, you know, stat checks. And so, you know, his first point is that, like, depending on which actual speech options you take, it'll have different effects. And while that is common in this game, because of how the speech is done, it's also fairly simple-ish. Like, there's normally two different cases when it comes to the speech in this game. Either all the options just advances the speech and you're not at any risk of majorly screwing up.
Excellent.
Or alternatively, there are options that would cause you to screw up speech-wise, but because of how they actually name all the speech options very simply, you can generally very easily figure out which speech option is going to have which effect.
Go check it out. You don't think I will?
One example of this is Abernethy Farm. You talk to them early on, so some of the speech implies that you don't know about raiders. And you basically talk to the father of the household, and he tells you about how his daughter stood up to raiders, and then she got killed. And then you have the option of telling him that she deserved what she got, and if you do, he no longer talks to you. He won't give you the quest. If you find the locket, he probably wouldn't he probably wouldn't react at all to it. Or maybe he'd go hostile. I don't know. I've never tried trying to do the quest after having that happen. In fact, I've never actually, aside from one character, I've never actually done that like speech option at all. So yeah, like it's a case of most of the speech options has the result of you either continuing the conversation or starting the quest. But that one, which, you know, it's quite a mean speech option.
Nice.
It's something that is quite obviously a mean speech option. And you can see beforehand that it will have that effect. That it will, you know... I was actually kind of expecting him to immediately go hostile if I actually did that speech option, but you know, he doesn't. He just you know, tells you not to speak to him anymore and won't actually speak to you anymore. Like whereas when it comes, like, for another example, let's take when you meet the railroad and you go to join them. For most of it, it basically doesn't matter what you say. It has the same effect. You know, you always join them, and then afterwards, well, not afterwards, but right next to the end, there's, you know, Desdemona asks you if you would risk your life to protect the synth. You have the option of, under the right circumstances, yes and no. And I think in the recent challenge I'm doing on Twitch, Legendary Swapper / Random Perks, the way that I've handled it,
See this bar? I killed a
I'll
man.
handle it.
I've got a few minutes to browse.
Not to bias you, but
So I tried the in certain circumstances speech option because, like, normally in most speech circumstances I always mash the X button because that always, in most circumstances, gets you straight through, and where it doesn't, it's because you're asking the person a question. Alright. Yeah, so basically, you know, if you say that Des says that there are no half measures and it's either a yes or a no, and so you either say yes and you join, or you say no and she presumably doesn't let you join.
Just don't throw up all over my floors.
I don't know if it's like permanent, like she just tells you to fuck off and then you're gone, or if she like goes hostile. I would guess it's just she just asks you to leave. So that, like, whereas when it comes to Virgil,
Hey there.
Hey,
for example,
got a lot of plans for that land.
Here you go.
that's to the matter.
I can't really think of any speech options available that would have the
If I need,
Got them all right here.
I like it.
that have the outcome of you
See, check out the leather on that. That's
of you like not being able to continue. And part of this, in comparison with Desdemona and in comparison with the Abernathy Farm, is that you
What's
do
this?
have to
Found
talk
some.
to Virgil. And
Working
the
hard?
game developers did
That's a good shape.
engineer this game to make sure that you can't softlock yourself. And so,
Need a drink. Nuka-Cola.
I mean, here I don't have Nuka Cola.
Drop by. You holding up, Blue? Piper.
So,
holding up, Blue? Yeah. Oh, no.
yeah,
I'm just
you know,
here's the deal.
any speech
All right, Piper.
option
I'm
you
good.
say
So,
to
my
Virgil
family.
basically
Yes.
results in you
So, honestly, seeing every...
Now the
in you like
question.
completing
My
the
baby Sean was
conversation,
Sure sounds like a
and
movie.
Virgil helps
Last
you.
part of our interview, I'd like to the threat of what would you say?
responsible.
I'll take
And I
it.
mean,
That's everything.
if
Anyway,
that's a critical part of the game, it could, you know, I guess they could have developed different options for that, like different outcomes. Like if you don't get over the fact that Virgil is a super mutant, and you like try to attack him, maybe if you kill him, he has some information in his terminal, and then you read that, and then that helps you get on your way.
Cola, Nuka-Cola.
Here you go.
Like, could have been something like that. I don't know.
You need protection. Everyone does.
I've got a few minutes to browse.
Feel free.
But yeah, like, doing that essentially means that for any encounter, they would have to have multiple ways of it playing out. Which, you know, it's... Well, that would potentially lead to more immersion. I guess... Oh yeah, here I decided to get more quiz before selling.
You know, a shotgun's great insurance against
Yeah, so I guess part of their concern with stuff like that is that most players would only play once. You know, and that's a concern you can have even if like also it occurs to me just there that I just sold a fusion core and bought one. Oh well. Yeah, so there's that. And then he also went into speech options. Talking about the difference between Fallout 1 and 2 and Fallout 3. So, in Fallout 1 and 2, there are different perks you can get. Oh, that was a pop. Yeah, so there are different perks you can get, and they unlock different speech options in different conversations. Whereas in Fallout 3, the speech perk basically is responsible for all speech checks, and
constantly trying to kill us, but
like it also
Excuse me.
head my way.
Let's trade.
This is what
it
about.
like also shows the percent chance, whereas in the what's the other one?
Do something fun. Run the bases.
Hey!
You're a great
Yeah,
baseball player.
whereas in Fallout 1 and 2,
A swatter never runs out of bullets.
you know, you never see which options you're missing. You never see that, oh, you need the barter skill for this speech check. If you don't meet the check, you never see the option. And so if you do a later character with a different perk setup, you would then
Let's see what you got.
see new speech options. And I mean, that is a decent idea. I don't know if it would be something you could directly do in the 4 speech option style of this game. Like in this game, any conversation stage has 4 options you can take. I guess the only way that I can think of is basically. Oh yeah, and here I do the Travis thing, I guess.
Hey,
What's your problem?
Yeah, so in this game, the only way you could do it is
Hi, there.
Hey there,
is
pal.
to have, like, if the conditions aren't met,
I don't. I wish they go.
rather than
Let's do
it
something
not
about
being
this
there to
then.
just
These men.
be, like,
Don't worry.
locked
Well,
or something.
okay. That's enough.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or
Say something.
perhaps it's,
I said.
you know,
enough.
could just say speech check
Look at you.
with some stat or something.
Leave me alone.
Sounds like you were thinking about saying or else. Were you, Travis? Were you gonna say or else? I'm wondering what comes after.
But I mean,
What you gonna do, little man?
another thing that's commonly stated about this game,
And your friend here.
that even I've commented about, is that all the speech checks in this game are based entirely on your charisma stat. And while it sort of makes sense that they are,
Hi there. You can order drinks and food.
it also makes
Travis,
Why am I
more
doing
sense
this?
for
This is
some
such
of
a
them
bad
to be
idea.
based
This is
on
such a
other
bad idea.
stats.
This is such a bad idea.
Like,
Why am I doing this?
when
This is
you
such a bad idea.
when you talk
Get lost.
to
This is such a
Dr.
bad
Duff
idea.
in the science center, those could be intelligence checks.
hey Travis.
Um,
I am so.
Hey, it's so right.
every time you guess passwords
Team,
Okay.
when talking
quite
to
well explained,
robots,
but
those
move
could be
on.
luck
Ready for
checks.
next part of food?
bring it on.
Good at it. You can have some. Now,
Um,
if someone.
I can have a chat with her.
I think those are the main checks. Maybe Strong would respond well to strength checks or something. But anyway, you know, diversity of checks, but also having checks based on perks. Like, if you're talking to cannibals, if you yourself have the cannibal perk, then maybe that
Actually,
gives you
I
a
would like to
speech
talk about
option
this.
that
Travis? Did he?
gives you some weird common ground
absolutely.
You
thing.
think? I mean, I've done.
Look, Travis is
Or
a
if
nice
you
guy.
have the science perk that unlocks a check with talking to Dr. Lee or something. But anyway, the episode is nearly finished. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.
This is terrible.
Take it easy. It'll be all right.
Oh, and also I try to get your theme to
I'll bring
give me
that
the
to you.
bed.
Please, just bring it. Dr. Travis.
It's a little bit awkward trying to get him to sell me the bed. But... oh no, I think here I know to wait for a bit.
I can't manage this place on my own. I need Vadim.
Hey, Fim,
Tell me if you need a room. Otherwise, the bar's over there.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll take it.
Room 2 is yours. Enjoy.
Need new clothes? Should stop by Fallon's basement. Open during the day.